What if I told you that your leftover coffee grounds, or even just the wastewater from your sink, could power a sensor out in a remote field? I know, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction. But we're going to dive into how some of the tiniest organisms on the planet can turn our trash into treasure, all by harnessing the very spark of life itself. Alright, so let's just jump right in with a question that feels like it's from the future, but is actually happening right now in labs and, believe it or not, in some people's backyards all over the world. I mean, seriously, think about that for a second. What if all the organic stuff we throw away every single day, what if it wasn't a problem we had to solve, but a solution just waiting for us to unlock it? That's the absolutely mind-blowing concept we're tackling. Yeah, this phrase right here gets to the absolute heart of it. Instead of seeing waste as something to manage or bury or just get rid of, this technology completely reframes it as a fuel source. It's a way to generate real, usable energy from the very stuff we discard.
So you might be wondering, how does this magic actually happen? Well, the key isn't some crazy, complex new machine. Nope, it's actually a team of microscopic power plants that have been on this planet for billions of years. So let's meet the secret agents behind this whole energy revolution.
Okay, so the device that makes all this possible is called a microbial fuel cell, or an MFC for short. At its core, an MFC is basically a system that uses living bacteria to break down organic stuff and create an electrical current while they do it. You're literally making bugs do the work for you. Now, here's the thing. Not just any bacteria can pull this off. The real stars of the show are a special type called exoelectrogens. What makes them so cool is their one unique superpower. They can literally breathe electrons, passing them outside of their own cell walls. And that one little trick, well, that's the key to making this whole thing work. So to really get how an MFC works, we've got to follow the path of a single electron. We're essentially looking at a tiny, living, breathing circuit that these bacteria build for us. You know, every circuit needs two ends, right? And in an MFC, you've got the anode and the cathode. The easiest way to think about it is that the anode is the power hub. It's party central, it's where all our bacteria live and do their work. The cathode then is the energy collector. It's the final destination where the electron's journey ends and the circuit gets completed. The whole process really just boils down to these four simple steps. First, the bacteria on the anode munch on our waste. Second, as they're eating, they release those electrons directly onto the anode. Third, those electrons, now they want to move, so they flow through a wire, and that creates our current. And finally, number 4, they reach the cathode, combine with oxygen, and poof, they form harmless water, completing the circuit. Okay, this is my favorite analogy for how the anode works. It's really like plugging into a biological USB port. The bacteria create this sticky layer called the biofilm all over the anode surface. And that creates a living interface that directly transfers energy from their metabolism right into our electrical system. It's brilliant. And that's really it. That constant, directed flow of electrons moving from the anode through whatever device you're powering and over to the cathode, that is your electricity. It's just a simple, elegant, living circuit.
Alright, so this is a super cool science experiment, for sure. But, so what? Why does this actually matter in the real world? Let's talk about how this neat little concept could genuinely become a world changer.
I mean, the potential here is just massive. It goes way beyond a lab curiosity. We're talking about a truly sustainable source of green energy that runs on what we throw away. We're talking about things like self-powering wastewater treatment, and even using nature as its very own pollution cleanup crew.
Let's just focus on that wastewater idea for a second, because this is wild. Right now, treating our wastewater is essential, but it uses a staggering amount of electricity. We're talking up to 3% of a developed nation's entire energy load. Now, imagine if those plants could not only clean our water, but generate all the power they need to operate just from the waste they're already processing. It's a total game changer.
You know, there's a quote that just perfectly captures this whole shift in thinking. It says, "You're tapping into nature's battery." And that's exactly it. You're not inventing some new power source from scratch. You're just creating the right environment to plug into an energy cycle that's existed for eons. So as we start to wrap this up, let's think about what this all means for what's next. We've seen how we can literally get power from bugs, but where does this journey take us?
Now, it's important to remember we're still at the beginning of this journey. Right now, the power output from these things is often pretty small, enough for a sensor or maybe some tiny LEDs.
But researchers are constantly finding new bacteria, new materials, and new ways to make these cells more and more powerful. This science is really just the start.
And all of this leaves us with one final, kind of provocative thought to chew on. We spend so much time, energy, and money trying to get rid of our waste because we see it as a burden. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if our waste is actually our greatest untapped resource?